Hello boys and girls. Today we're going to talk about mixed numbers. Before we talk about mixed numbers, I want to review with you what a fraction is. 1/3 can be displayed like this. If you take a pie and you split it up into 3 equal sections and you shade in one of those sections, that means that 1/3 of that pie is shaded in. This is the fraction 1/7. So we have this whole part split up into 7 sections, and we call that 1/7. So 1 out of the 7 sections are shaded in. Here's 2/9. You have 9 sections, and 2 of them are shaded in. So 9 parts make up a whole here, and 2 of those parts are shaded in to represent 2/9. Now, if I have one whole, and I wanted to represent it as a fraction, I could do it in a few different ways. One of them is to take 2 halves and put them together. So 2 halves equal 1 whole. You could also say that 3/3 equal 1 whole as well. So this is 1 whole, and if I broke that whole up into 3 parts to make up a whole, you would have 3/3. Well, what if I had 1 whole and I wanted to add a fraction onto it? Let's take an example. Let's say tonight I go home and I'm really hungry and I make some really delicious pizza, and I decide to eat the whole pizza. I cut that pizza into 8 pieces and I eat every piece of that pizza, but I'm still hungry. So then I'm going to take a second pizza and I'm going to eat 1 more slice of pizza. That means I'm going to have this pizza which is also split up into 8 sections, and I'm going to eat 1 of them. So that means if this is 1 whole and it's cut up into 8 slices and I ate the whole thing, I ate 1 whole, I ate 8/8. And then I added 1/8 onto what I ate, and I ended up eating 1 1/8 pizza. Should probably look like this. Here's 1 whole and here's 1/8, and when you put them together you have 1 1/8. Another way of looking at that is like this. This is called a mixed number. When we have 1 whole number and a fraction combined together, we call them mixed numbers. So here I have a whole and here I have a half. When you put that 1 whole together with that 1/2, you get 1 1/2. This is the number 6 7/8. That means that we have 6 whole parts and 7 out of 8 parts remaining. So 6 7/8. This is another mixed number, and this is 5 3/7. I would like you to, using a diagram, either using fraction bars like these, in the instance of 1 1/2, or fraction pies like these, fraction wheels we also call them. I would like you to illustrate this fraction for me. I'm sorry, illustrate this mixed number for me. Do that in the practice section of your notes. Okay, and go ahead and pause if you need to. I'm going to move on. I'm going to show you how to add mixed numbers together. So I already showed you an example of how I added 1 whole plus a fraction. But what if I had 2 mixed numbers and I wanted to add them together? Let's say, for example, I have 1 2/3, and I want to add that to 1 1/3. Well, one easy way to do that is to move around my pieces. So I could easily put together my whole units, my 1s, and I could say I have 2. And what remains is 2/3 and 1/3. Well, when you put 2/3 and 1/3 together, you end up with 3/3. You end up with another whole unit. So when I say 1 2/3 plus 1 1/3, I'm really actually saying 1 plus 1 plus 1. If you wanted to subtract and say 1 2/3 minus 1 1/3, if I wanted to take that away, then what I would do here is I would take away 1 1/3. And that would leave me with 1/3 remaining. So just to show you what that looks like as a math problem, here I have 1 2/3 plus 1 1/3. And I've drawn this pink arrow off to the side here just to remind you that when you have fractions with the same denominator or common denominators, those denominators stay the same. So they come down here and they don't change. So the only thing that you're doing is adding numerators here and adding whole numbers. So 1 plus 1 is 2. Here's my 1 plus 1 is 2. And 2/3 plus 1/3 equals 3/3. Okay, so here's my, let's see if I can do this with one hand here. Here's my 2/3 plus 1/3 equals 3/3. When you put all of those together, you end up with 2 3/3. You have to remember to change that 3/3 to a whole number. So what this really means is 2 plus 3/3, or 2 plus 1 equals 3. A subtraction problem will look like this. So you'll have 1 2/3 minus 1 1/3, and that's going to equal 1/3, just like I showed you with the fraction bars. Keep those denominators the same and just subtract the whole numbers and the numerators. So 2 minus 1 equals 1, and you bring down that denominator of 3. So 1 2/3 minus 1 1/3 is 1/3. I gave you the practice to illustrate 3 3/4, and you should do that in the practice section of your notes. On the back of your paper, I'd like you to write these practice problems and solve them. 23 5/11 plus 17 3/11. And I'd also like you to solve 14 5/9 minus 8 3/9. And again, they both have the same denominator or common denominators, so you're only worrying about numerators and whole numbers.